I've been southbound, I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I ought to slow down, standing in the pouring rain.
What's going on, guys? Tristan and Tony back with another episode of the One Hell of Life Outdoor Podcast. What's going on, Deb?
Fired up. Fired up. 2024, let's go, baby. And we've got an incredible guest on the show tonight. Tristan, do your due diligence here.
Yeah, so many of y'all probably have heard of Pitboss Waterfowl.
Of course.
Yeah, you know, I'd seen Jeff and what he does on Instagram for as long as I've been duck hunting, but he did a collab with Molly's Place and Dirty Duck Coffee, which y'all know is one of the sponsors of the podcast and stuff. And I was like, man, we need to try to see if we can get Jeff on. So, Jeff, thank you for taking the time out tonight, and we're super excited to learn about your kind of duck hunting up in your area.
Yeah, well, good evening. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So, I guess let's start. Can you kind of give everyone a little bit of background of, you know, who you are and what you do, you know, for people that aren't familiar with Pitboss Waterfowl?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been guiding full time and generally and typically Seaducks since 1999. Back in the day, it was a 107-day season, so much more opportunity than the current. Well, there's no more special Seaduck season anymore, but you know, currently our duck season went fly away 60 days. So I do it 60 days. Did not go Christmas this year, but if I had somebody to go, I would have went. And yeah, just trying to enjoy myself, and I do enjoy doing what I do, and I just feel very fortunate that, you know, over the years I've been able to do this full time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. One of the things that struck me about I was reading on your website that about 1999 is just the longevity of you know, the business you've ran. You know, I feel like you don't see that every day, especially in the, you know, outfitter kind of space. So congrats on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. We were talking about sort of that same kind of thing in the boat today, where, you know, like people are all gung-ho, go, and then all of a sudden, like, they drop off the face of the earth and you don't see them anymore. And, you know, sometimes they resurface and sometimes they don't. But, yeah, I think if anything, you know, doing it for as many years as I've been doing it, it just makes me old. So I'll own that. So it's good.
Well, I got to tell you, Jeff, you know, just from the standpoint of learning how, or even scratching the surface, I should say, of learning how to hunt ducks with tides. That's a whole nother thing I can't wait to dive into tonight, because I tell you what, I've been stranded. I've had mud so deep that I thought it was going to swallow me or my son alive, and it wasn't fun. And so hopefully we gain some wisdom from you tonight.
I will share whatever knowledge I have. I'll share with you.
So, you know, I think that'd be a good spot to kind of paint a picture, Jeff, if you can. You know, what's it like to hunt the eastern shore of Maryland?
Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody that's never experienced it, you know, what kind of help like build that picture of, you know, you start off, you know, that night, morning. I mean, even talk about the preparation of things you guys get into.
Yeah, so the Eastern Shore in itself, I mean, the Chesapeake Bay, if you're not familiar with Maryland, does separate the east part of Maryland, the Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia, the peninsula from Delaware Bay, Chesapeake Bay, all the way down to the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia. So you come across, you can drive up and around, or you come across the Bay Bridge. You're from Annapolis on the Eastern Shore, and, you know, generally, typically, it's a flat piece of land. It's very sandy. You know, pine trees, hardwood. There's some super big marshes, lots of freshwater rivers that run off the Chesapeake Bay. And it is I can't say it's unpopulated, but definitely as compared to the Western Shore, the population is much less on the Eastern Shore. And in Maryland, you're going to find, I'm kind of making a guess here, it's not factual, but I would tell you probably, you know, a good 60 to 70% of the public land opportunity in Maryland is on the Eastern Shore, or at least a far greater amount of acres on the Eastern Shore. So, you know, a lot of people drive across each morning, you know, to duck hunt, goose hunt, sea duck hunt. Yeah, it's a cool place. I was born in Havre de Grace on the Upper Bay on the Western Shore. Mm-hmm. So I'm not an original Eastern Shore shoreman kind of thing, but at the same time, it is where we call our home. And yeah, it is a very neat place. It's got a lot of public opportunity. and there's lots of private land that guys are very passionate about waterfowl hunting.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to hear about different areas around the United States. And you mentioned, and I know this, you guys kill a lot of sea ducks, and that, so I'd imagine you're shooting like scotters, long-tailed ducks, stuff like that.
Correct. Yes. And with guiding, it gives me the opportunity that it's something I can truly do. We don't have Sunday waterfowl hunting in Maryland, but I can do it 6 days a week and be typically be very productive every day of the week.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I'm sitting here thinking if I was going to go explore to try to do this, one of the first radars that go off for me is probably just what's the conditions like? I mean, what are the conditions up there? I mean, you guys got to be getting yourselves into some pretty sketchy situations, but of course, somebody with your years of knowledge is why you're using somebody like yourself. I mean, me personally, I'd be like, dude, I'm calling him because he's going to make sure I don't die. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, what are the weather conditions and stuff like that up there?
Well, I mean, what I always say is wind makes waves, and today it was blowing in a favorable condition. Yesterday morning was the wind was not strong, but it was coming in from the east northeast, and the waves on the ocean were very big. And we decided not to go, and it was a 2-day hunt. We got the first day in, and basically they just kind of rolled their deposit money over into next year. They still want to do it, so they're from North Carolina.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, wind makes waves. It's just, there's so many factors and variables that go into it. Again, like I said yesterday, it was not really that windy, but it'd been doing out of the east northeast, for over 24 hours. So there was kind of a good 4.5 foot wave that went very close together. Wind switched around yesterday hard out of the west northwest, and we sat in some strong wind today, but blowing off the beach, it was relatively flat. So it's just, you really kind of got there's a lot of thought goes into it. Again, watching what it's been doing and what the forecast, you can't always trust forecasts, but, obviously that's what we have to go off of. And, I am in Steve Hoover Duckwater Boats would call it the world's largest duck boat. It's a 32-footer. So, I mean, it is a very big boat. So it does allow me to be a little more comfortable. Started out in a 17 TDB, and then I went up to a 21 banks and then a 25 banks. So, I mean, this boat is a much bigger boat than the old boat to 25. So it will allow me to sit more comfortably in water that's a little bit bigger than some of the older boats.
I got you. Yeah, it's just, to me, when I think about all the videos and reels and pictures I've watched of what you do, to me, I just feel like, yeah, dude, this is where you get a little tougher as a duck hunter. I mean, right? I mean, everywhere you go has got its challenges. Whether you're going through the swamps of Florida, chest deep with gators and pythons in 90-degree temperatures, to being up in where they're, your environment, Jeff, and to me, just as from living in the South for too many years, it's intimidating to me. I mean, I'm just like, wow, this is just, it's neat. It's fascinating to me. It really is.
Well, I'll say this, again, overnight, it was 17 degrees or so, and it was windy, but generally and typically the last couple of seasons, man, we've really not have had a winter. So I guess I can't complain too much that I've had to tolerate too many cold temperatures, but yeah, it's just, the weather is the weather, and we do the best we can to do. And there are places to get out of the wind. And, unfortunately at the moment, the other places that we can get out of the wind, there's not that many ducks. So it's that kind of thing of like, do I want it to be a little more physical for me to pull the hunt off, but get birds, or, kind of take an easier way on myself physically, but, you're not going to see the amount of birds or
Right.
The opportunity. So it's always kind of that juggling act, and I would rather, I want to be as successful as we can. So,
just out of curiosity, what is your season dates up there?
So again, way back in the day when I started, it was a 107-day special Seaduck season, so it was always open. Opened the first weekend in October and went to the end of January. Mm-hmm. 8 years ago, they reduced it to a 60-day special Seaduck season, which opened the first weekend in November and went to basically that first Friday in January.
Gotcha.
So they did that for 6 days, and then in the Atlantic Flyway last season, they decided that we're not going to have a special sea duck season. So, we have a 60-day duck season. So whenever, obviously, sea ducks are ducks, but you can target sea ducks during the regular sea duck season. I'm sorry, the regular duck season, not sea duck season.
Mm-hmm.
So in Maryland, we have a week in October, 2 weeks in November, and then mid-December to the end of January.
I gotcha.
I see.
And with sea ducks, do you is there certain things that you see from just a weather standpoint or maybe a food standpoint that are better than some years better than others as far as migration standpoint, or are they just pretty much photo migrators and they're just going to come certain times a year?
Yeah, I would say especially Scoter, they migrate on the calendar. So that week of October, it could be could be a high of 78 degrees today, and they still fly.
Gotcha.
Not, other birds, 100%. We need weather and winter, but Scoter pretty much traditionally, they migrate on the calendar. I would say in our area, the last week of October into the first week of November is the peak.
In the outdoors, every detail counts. See sharper, aim clearer. From the river's edge to the heart of the flooded timber, Hook and Bullet has your vision covered. Hook and Bullet's purpose-built optics are flawlessly crafted to give you an edge regardless of your outdoor pursuit. Use code SEADUCK30 for 15% off a pair of Hook and Bullet sunglasses today.
Peak migration. And I do think, we see plenty of birds, but I don't think I see quite the birds that I did 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So, and that's one of the reasons, they reduced the bag limit on them and reduced the season on them too. So,
Tristan, who was we talking to? It was I feel like it was one of the waterfowl biologists, and somebody was telling us about, was it the Chesapeake Bay that used to have the largest migration of canvasbacks, and that all shifted over a course of time or something like that? Jeff, do you have any knowledge of that history?
I don't know that it shifted, but basically kind of the drought, the Dust Bowl in the mid 30s. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm told really, what I've read and what I've been told really kind of stunted the canvasback breeding and population. Okay. In my lifetime, when I first started duck hunting in the late 80s, the canvasback season was closed. So there was not a canvasback season. Wow. And even when they opened it up, it was the last week of the season. Then they opened it the last 2 weeks of the season, and now it's basically always open. But no, I've not heard that the migration has shifted. But I'm not that educated, so if somebody knows better, I'll say they're correct.
That's a good motto to live by. I like that.
All right, you know what? This isn't on the outline, but we're going to ask the master of sea duck hunting this one borderline question. I love it when somebody, or we've even dealt with this. Hey, check out this sea duck hunt. Those aren't sea ducks; those are divers, right?
So, what classifies a sea duck as a sea duck? So, your canvasbacks, bluebills, redheads, buffleheads, any diver, when they dive, they're using their feet only. Anything would be called a sea duck, they're also using their wings.
Okay.
It just enables them to swim underwater a little more agilely and easily than a diving duck.
Okay, yeah,
interesting.
I never heard that before.
Now, now when it comes to those species that you're hunting, what are the varieties that you're seeing there, and some of the oddities, I guess, too.
Yep. So in the Scoters, you have the surf Scoter, which is my logo, a common Scoter, a black Scoter, or American Scoter is all the same bird, and then you have a white wing Scoter. And generally and typically, we did see white wings in good numbers years past, but current day, my sea ducks, as far as Scoter go, basically it's more or less a 50-50 mix of surf and common Scoter with the occasional white wing. Certain areas do hold good numbers of old squaw. So you've got old squaw. We do shoot an eider occasionally. We've not seen them probably in 5 years, 5 or 6 seasons now. The last 2 eider that we did shoot were actually Drake king eider.
Wow.
But you're not coming here to shoot a king eider, but that's the last 2 birds. The last 2 eider that were killed out of the boat were king eider drakes.
Wow.
So we looked hard today when it came back in the inlet. Occasionally you'll see a harlequin, but harlequins again. they just seem to stay a little bit north of us. You can't shoot them, but it is cool to see them. To see them. So that's the ducks that you'd see, and then other a little oddity is a bird called a razor-billed auk. Kind of looks like a flying penguin, if you will. And there's certain seasons we see more of those than others, but that's kind of a neat little seabird to see.
Yeah.
And then especially in the early season, man, there's all kinds of ducks migrating south. So it's pretty much, you can see pretty much everything on the ocean.
That's awesome.
Now, do you see a lot of puddle ducks that use inlets and shorelines and waterways, along the coast? A lot of puddle ducks that use that as, like, say, as a stop along the way?
No, I see a lot of birds, traveling and migrating south, but not necessarily really like you're stopping by or hanging out kind of thing, that kind of thing. But yeah, we do definitely those October, November dates. We do see certain days more than others, but you will see quite a few other ducks, non-sea ducks, geese, brant, snow geese, swan, heading south.
Wow, that's cool. Just having this conversation with you tonight makes me just I'm a sucker for ecology and the habitat and everything that goes along with an animal. And I guarantee you, when I get off this podcast tonight, I'm going to be in deep Google search because we had Dr. Bradley Cohen on a few weeks ago, and one thing that Tristan and I learned was that a bufflehead it nests in a tree like a wood duck.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind because I'm used to watching this sucker go underwater, I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm interested to do that.
Yeah. No, that's cool stuff. Jeff, one thing that I wanted to get into, kind of back to a little bit about you, starting in 1999 and kind of just when waterfowl became a passion for you. Can you kind of go back to what got you into waterfowl and what kind of started Pitboss?
So, the whole word Pitboss, I basically, was introduced to the internet in 1995, 96.
Mm-hmm.
And especially on, for instance, duckhunter.net, the refuge, like nobody used their real name, right? So if you use your real name, like somebody's going to show up at your house and kill you, kind of thing. That was the early days of the internet. So, nobody really used, they didn't use their real name, just made a screen name. And in Maryland, vanity tag is 7. You can have as maximum of 7 letters, and the tag Pitboss has been on my truck since like 1991, I guess. So when I first looking for the domain name, I was like, Pitboss, use that my screen name. It's the tag on my truck. I was going to call it Pitboss Waterfowl. It has nothing to do with seaduck hunting. If anything, it's really more of a goose hunting reference on the Upper Eastern Shore, where quite often everybody is shooting and targeting Canada geese and snow geese from pits in a field. So that's really kind of where the whole Pitboss Waterfowl came from. But it's I just not to go too deep, but I believe we're socialized to do certain things and certain steps in our lives, and I tried that out, and it didn't work out for me. Divorce and looking for something to do something a little different, and it just kind of a man, Donald Hughes, who's not with us any longer. He was very instrumental in helping me, pointing me in the right direction, educating me, motivating me to try to guide waterfowl full time. So it's like once I sort of got a taste of that, it just kind of snowballed and has just progressed to whatever it is today. So
yeah,
I have done back in the day. I have Donald Hughes to thank for all this. You and I would not be talking this evening without meeting Donald Hughes. So,
well, appreciate you bringing that up, and yeah, definitely pour one out for Donald. I appreciate that.
100%. Yep.
And after all this time, like you mentioned today, like a cold long morning and stuff like that. What kind of keeps you going at this point? Is it still just the same love of chasing waterfowl, or has it changed over the years?
So if I could go off a little bit of a tangent, anybody's familiar with, or if you're familiar with the group, the webpage Hunt 41.
Yep.
Okay, so they came and filmed with me. So it started last night, and I did get to sleep in a little bit this morning. I usually wake up at 2:30 in the morning. They said they wanted to show up here at the shop at 7 a.m. It was and it was very windy, so we kind of thought, the forecast was for the wind to kind of lay down as the morning went on. But I only had to get up at 4 o'clock this morning. They were here at 7. We did a lot of stuff here at the shop. We weren't really set up, really until about 10 o'clock. And we sat on the water till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's just a little bit longer. On a normal guided hunt, I end the hunt at 11 in the morning.
Okay.
So my schedule was, and I'm a creature of habit. So like basically a little out of whack of, not necessarily last night, but definitely this morning, just in a different mode. And today was day 48 of 60. And I operate best off of routine, and I have my, I just have the little ways, the idiosyncrasies, the way that I do things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was definitely taken out of my game a little bit just because I want to make sure that they got what they wanted to get. And we just, we hunted longer just because we started later. That's all.
Sure. Yeah, no. Yeah, I would just from outside looking in, I mean, it's a grind, 60 days of, sleep deprived and, rigging decoys and boat maintenance and everything that goes into it, which I'm sure even, dealing with seawater is a whole different conversation with your boat maintenance. But, yeah.
Well, I mean, today is just kind of a different life for me. Than back in the 107 days. 107 days, there were a lot of throwaways in the beginning, but, I was a good 80 to 90 days a season. So, I mean, that's what I used to do.
Williamson Outfitters, located along the beautiful Gulf Coast of Florida, is a premier guide service with lodging that provides incredible coastal duck hunting, gator hunting, fishing, gigging, scalping, and custom boat tours along Florida's forgotten coast. They are family owned and operated with over 200 years of combined experience hunting and fishing along this incredible stretch of Florida. Captain Chris Williamson runs a first-class operation. Fishing charters typically consist of inshore and nearshore fishing, targeting species such as tripletail, redfish, trout, mahi-mahi, also known as dolphin fish, shark, flounder, sheep's head, black drum, snapper, jacks, and mackerel. On a coastal duck hunt, you have an incredible chance at many rare species of diver ducks and several puddle duck species. Starting today, Chris is giving out a special offer for all One Hell of a Life listeners. 15% off springtime inshore fishing charters and flounder gigging trips when you type ZeroDuck15 in the comments section at checkout. Offer ends March 31st. And if you're ready to chase some ducks, booking is now available for the 24-25 duck season. Book your trip online at www.floridaducks.com or text Captain Chris at 850-251-8650.
And I mean, really, if you think about it, 60 days is 2 months. And I kind of have the attitude also is like, I can pretty much do anything for a short period of time with, if I get 6 hours of sleep, I'm good to go. So,
yep.
What kind of tide changes do you guys, I mean, as far as like depth, does it change seasonally? And I mean, down here, we're used to, anywhere from, I don't know, I'd say up to on a king tide, 12-foot change or something like that. What's like the norm up there?
Yeah, our tide change here really is not that big. I would say probably average of about 4 feet. We get the full moon and wind. The moon and the wind are the biggest factors, to if it's going to be a bigger or lower, higher or lower tide. Yeah, day in and day out, like 4 foot, maybe 5 foot. It's not like anything great.
Gotcha. And you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, because I don't want to give out any of your tips or secrets. But because obviously you're great at what you do. But when it comes to these diver ducks, when it comes to your scouting and stuff, is it? I know, like when I'm going out and Tristan and I are scouting for puddle ducks, we have taken the time to really educate ourselves on all of the type of vegetation and crustaceans and things that these puddle ducks eat. Up there, I mean, do they target? Do you like look for schools of little fish and things like that? I'm just kind of curious of how that works.
So basically, especially scoter, are shellfish eaters. So they're looking for clams and mussels, very small. They have to swallow them whole, and they crush them once they're inside.
Wow.
So that's what, that's generally and typically their, probably 95% of their food source is. I've done some work with the bird baiting laboratory in Patuxent, where I have, sent birds and that kind of thing. They've been nice enough to share some of the, the results of what basically food studies. And they'll tell you the vegetation in these ducks is like purely by accident. They're down grubbing, they can't really see, and they're just trying to eat whatever they can find. And like any vegetation in them is kind of, again, like a byproduct of the way they feed. But yeah, they're heavy, shellfish eaters. So for me, what I'm looking for, there's two ways to find, to hunt them, target them. Number one is like basically find where they are feeding, and basically set up on that area. But traditionally, the ways over the years I've really liked to do it is, kind of more in traveling, get them in between where they start and where they end up. And I find that they're more predictable, and or they're more apt to decoy nicely versus, if you're in a feed area and you've got live birds, kind of basically all around you, and you're sitting in a boat with decoys, it's kind of easy for them to, to go to live birds versus, the decoys. And again, in those feed areas, they're just not as predictable, I've found, over the years than more getting them, I won't really say running traffic, but definitely, in between where they start and where they end up.
I got you. Now, do they tend to align, with early morning, late at night, or is it just really tide dependent?
Nah, it's more daylight dependent. They're going to fly, good through the morning, and they kind of get where they're going to get, and they stop. I don't have information on Scoter. Basically, I talked about this morning where we were 1 year up on the St. Lawrence River, University of Quebec in Rimouski. Talked with a doctor that was studying eider, and he would put a data collector in hen eider. And I can't recall what 5 things it actually recorded, but I know 2 of the things. Number 1 was the time of the day, and number 2 was the heartbeat. And he would say, he's showing us the charts where it's very easy. Basically, at that 6 to 7 to 8 in the morning, their heartbeat was very elevated, and then the rest of the day it was at rest. He's like, so they can assume that that's when the birds fly, and once they get where they're going to get, they're done for the day, kind of thing. So his little tip was, especially for eider, if you want to shoot eider, you better be ready to gun in time, because they're going to fly and they're done. So Scoter aren't quite as bad as that, but definitely it is that, to me, they're a morning flight bird.
More like what we would call a wood duck hunt. Really, I mean, it's just like, all right, well, shooting light was 30 minutes ago. Let's go home.
Yeah, not quite that bad, but yeah, definitely, you definitely can kind of, you chart their flight. It peaks and then it falls off kind of quickly.
Now, I'm curious, and if I step outside my boundaries, please tell me, but I'm curious, immediately upon you saying that they're eating these crustaceans and shellfish, I'm thinking about how tough a clam is, all right, or a mussel, for example. And what is it? Does that happen in the gizzard, or how do they break that down? Or is it just through their metabolism of processing?
It is in their gizzard, but again, if you think of these shellfish being super small, I mean, like you and I could probably, kind of crush them in our fingers.
I see.
They're not they're not big blue mussels that we'd be eating. They're gonna target the small ones. At that same university on the St. Lawrence River in Rimouski, they did have a captive colony of eider, and actually it was a Dr. Sam Richmond. She's from Montana, I believe. They grew mussel on slates, on tile. And they had this big dive tank, and they put the slates down on the bottom. So one of them were like super small, like smaller than peas, if you will. And the other end of the slate, or another slate there, were like basically blue mussels that you and I would eat. And the one in the middle was kind of mid-sized ones. They put a pair of eider in there, and basically they went down and devoured all the small ones, ate about half of the middle-sized ones, and didn't touch the big ones at all. And my reaction was like, wow, like to blue crabs. I want to eat the biggest crab I can, not the little ones.
Right.
And she brought up the point of, well, yes, but these guys are crushing these things inside. So basically, kind of the protein for effort, it's easier. Although they have to eat more of them, it's much easier for them to crush and digest the small small ones versus the large ones. Even though there's more protein in the big ones, it's going to take more work for them to to eat them and digest them. That said, when I was in Puget Sound, Seattle, Washington, seaduck hunting, you take ferries everywhere, back and forth, and there's seaducks all over. You're sitting there waiting for the next one to come. So, I had the camera, and the seaducks are all around the pilings eating. And I did capture a surf scoter, trying to choke down a blue mussel that would be one that you and I would want to eat. It was pretty incredible that it was able to get it in its mouth and swallow it. So
wow. Go ahead, Tristan. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing I was wondering, just curious about, is everywhere in the United States, you talk to different people that let's say it's Mississippi Flyway and you're an outfitter and you shoot greenheads every day, or like what you do, you're shooting scouters all the time. Do you kind of get to the point where it's like, for you, it's just like you've seen it a million times and you're really, is it, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like, is it still as fun for you shooting those, or to you it's, you want to see other things waterfowl wise? Like you just mentioned you were in Seattle, which is the complete opposite coast. Do you do a good bit of traveling, doing different type of duck hunting throughout the year?
Well, first off, I still get excited when we get 8, 10, 12, 20 scoter that do it right and come right over the decoy. So I never get tired of seeing that. Mm-hmm. But I'm not pulling the trigger on those birds. I'm trying to video, or I'm guiding you. So it's not about me shooting them; it's about you shooting them. So
right.
I don't have any trouble, differentiating that. But more specifically, recently, past couple seasons, we go to Prince Edward Island, Canada. Karen and I do, and this year we're up there for 17 nights. So we do that. That is. It's a vacation trip, hunting trip, vacation trip kind of thing. So we do hunt while we're there, but hunting is not the first and foremost thing on our mind. Although as soon as we get there, we do go hunt. On PEI, you can shoot 6 ducks, and you can 6 of those ducks can be black ducks. So they have a big population of black duck. It's a 5 Canada goose limit, 5 Canada geese, and it's the only place I know of on the East Coast that has a healthy population of Barrow's goldmine. So beautiful place, and that's one of our trips. But
do you want coffee that doesn't suck? Get the Duck. Dirty Duck coffee is made specifically for the waterfowl enthusiast. Enjoy flavors like Morning Wood, Dark Dynasty, Cinnamon Teal Snickerdoodle, and First Flight to unlock the flavor that you'll enjoy in the blind for years to come. Our friends at Dirty Duck Coffee Company are now offering all Zero Duck 30 followers a 15% discount when you use code ZeroDuck15 on your next order.
Things, bucket list trips. I've been to St. Paul Island one time during COVID. Karen and I were going to go back, and the island got shut down, so we did not get there that year. So I think we're going to maybe, for more specifically for King Hider, go to Greenland through via Iceland. Wow. That's kind of something on the top of our list. And I love shooting brant, and Pacific brant, black brant on the West Coast. I really want to go to Mexico and shoot black brant. So,
wow, yeah, and now my brain's spinning even more because I'm sitting here thinking about, all of the unique. We're just so I don't know, as a North American waterfowlers, we know the species that we live around, and I'm always fascinated by a picture. It might be, and I'm sure Ramsey Russell, I'm always fascinated when he goes somewhere and shows a certain kind of bird or something. But now I'm sitting there and I want to go, all right, Ramsey, have you been over there on the largest waves that surfers look for all night or all year long to hunt that Australian diver crazy species? You know what I mean? There's got to be these incredible species of diver and sea ducks that are all across the world.
Yeah, 100%. I always tell people too. I mean, like it's not it's all relative, right? So when I tell people, man, you can shoot 6 black ducks, they're like, whoa, what? And for the guys that live up there, that's the norm for them, right? That's what they can shoot that. But you talk to somebody from Alabama, like they'd be happy to shoot. Well, I'm not picking on Alabama, but somebody in somewhere down that way, they'd be happy to shoot 1 black duck, or they'll tell you they've never I had somebody from Arkansas. I felt so bad. They came up, and there's a spot. Usually, there's about 200 to 300 black duck. Took them there. They want to take some video and take pictures. We pull up, and there's like 10. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, man! I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry." And generally, typically, there's 20 times this sitting here. And he, like, how it's all relative. He got out and was so excited. He's like, "I've never seen more than 2 black ducks sitting together." He's like, "There's 10 of them." And like, he was just thrilled to death that there's 10 black ducks sitting together. Where I was like disappointed because there should be 200 or 300 sitting there.
Right.
So
wow.
it's all relative. All relative, I think, is what I said.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And when we first, ventured out to Arkansas from, the East Coast to hunt in the flooded timber, it's like we just want to shoot one mallard, one migratory
between
mallard.
the both of us. Yeah, dude.
It made our morning, and it did make our morning.
One mallard's not a park duck.
yeah. It's all relative.
It sure is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I'll share a funny story with you, Jeff. So, a good friend of ours in Northeast Arkansas runs Delta Thunder Outfitters. His name's Kade Weatherford. And he always tells this story, and I'm going to make it quick, but he always tells this story about these boys that came out from the East Coast to hunt. And he took them out on this hunt, and they got in a really good area of pintails that day, and the pintails they were actually doing it right. And all 6 guys pulled up, bum, 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 and 2 different volleys, I think, or something, and shot their limited, and they all shot Drake pintails. And they looked over at, Kate said they looked over at me and said, "You ready to go?" And he goes, "What do you mean you ready to go?" He goes, "We got our limit, we're ready to go." And they're like, "What?" But that's the first thing I think of when we talk about how relative it is, because that resonates a lot with Tristan and I, because, I mean, honestly, that day that we both got our first bull pintails, pintails. We were ready to just pack it up and go home.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'd probably do the same thing whenever, I'm not going to say when I do, but I will say when I come out and hunt with you out there, because to kill some of those species. I mean, Tristan and I think one thing we share is this passion for species, I think. And that's kind of what drives us as duck hunters. And I'm excited about getting up there sometime. But, I was vetting you a little bit, Jeff, and taking care of some of the fears that I had and some of the questions I had early on. So now I'm ready to go.
Well, there you go. It is a big piece of water, and we talked about it this morning, man. Like, it's once or twice a week. Yeah, I do have people that are not feeling 100%, just depending on the weather conditions. The other morning, 4 guys, 3 of them were happy that we shot the limit. They shot their limit. We could get off the water because they were not feeling good.
Well, and this is coming from a Navy guy of all things, but I was on an aircraft carrier, so those don't shift around a lot.
100%.
Well, one thing that I wanted to ask you, Jeff, is you kind of mentioned it earlier with the king eider, but do you have any crazy stories about, like, I don't know, just a hunt that just kind of is burned in your mind, or anything crazy outside of that king eider that's happened over the years?
The king eider, I guess we had the 2 in the same season, and the last king eider, it was the last day of the season, and I was like, eider, 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 I'm yelling it out, and they shot it. I wanted to call it. But at the same time, if I was wrong, I didn't want to really upset somebody. So I had to preface it. I was like, look, I don't want to upset anybody, but I said, that's a king eider. But if we get over there and it's not, I don't want you to be hating on me because I said it was a king eider. But I said, that's a king eider. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, I feel pretty confident that that's a king eider sitting there. And we went over, and sure enough, it was. They were very pleased. But I didn't want to be, I was pretty confident that it was. But at the same time, dead bird on the water, at a distance, but stories. I mean, it's guiding. I won't say it's, when I say this word, I don't want it to be negative, but I mean, it's very repetitive, and it is, pretty much trying to, do the same thing basically every day, and generally, typically, we have very good results. There's always the odd bird here and there that we see, but we're targeting scoter, And I guess, like I said, over the years, the biggest thing I can see is that the reduction in the season, reduction of the bag limit, and maybe possibly, the amount of birds that we see. But as sea duck hunting, I mean, I have good memories with Donald Hughes, the times that we were phone hunted together. We had some really good snow goose hunts when the limit was, here I brought that up. Our Canada goose season in the AP bird in our where the Chesapeake Bay region was closed many years, and I tell people, I shot a lot of snow geese in that time period, and I said, here I'm really going to date myself or tell you how old I am. The limit on snow geese was a 4-bird limit, so
Wow.
not like it is today. So it's been many years ago, but on the next year, one of those years, they bumped it up to 5 birds, and we did shoot a nice decoying snow geese. We shot 35. I can vividly remember that hunt, even though it's been many years ago. Because we ruined one of the guys. It was his first snow goose hunt, and he thought this was great. And he's like, "Let's come back and do this tomorrow." Like, no, man. Like, if we shot 4 or 5, maybe 8, that would be a great morning. I said, "You're ruined because this was non-typical of the way snow goose hunting from a pit in an ag field. It shouldn't be like this. At least in that time, that time frame."
Yeah.
But no, I've just I do have good memories, but again, like a lot of, especially with the guiding, it is. And again, when I don't want to, I have a smile on my face when I say it's repetitive, but it is it's the same thing, kind of, often day after day after day. So.
Well, obviously, you've got such a deep passion and love for the sport, because no matter what you do in your life, I don't care what it is, if you're going to be a pro, if you're going to be excellent, if you're going to strive for excellence, I should say, we love it so much, whatever that thing is that we do, that we have this inner, I don't know, we have this inner drive, I guess, and passion to get a couple hours sleep and serve our clients and do the things that we do in business, no matter what it is, and I mean, that's obviously with you having over 20, roughly 25 years of experience doing this, a quarter of a decade. And I'm not trying to date you because I'm old too, but it's incredible that you keep the pace that you do. It's in the teens that morning, and maybe you're chasing ducks or geese, but now it's September and it's 85 degrees and you're hunting early teal or geese. As a waterfowler, you need dependable weather protection that will not break the bank. Founded in 1996, Frog Togs is not only the leader in breathable wader technology, but a company you can depend on to keep you warm and dry, head to toe, no matter your hunting environment. Stay bone dry by using discount code ZD315 for 15% off not only your first purchase, like most discount codes, but how about every single purchase you make from now until December 31st, 2024?
Well, thank you. It's something that I say quite often, and again, I have a smile on my face when I say this. But I guess maybe one of my biggest motivations to go is like I had a regular, quote, whatever. It's a relative word, regular, right? But I don't want the 40-hour week job, and I don't have the 40-hour week job, so therefore, I gotta go and keep things going, because that's kind of what I got away from to do this, and I need to keep doing this. So. Maybe one day when I can't retire, and I gotta keep working or keep doing something. Maybe I'll say, hey, 30 some years ago, 40 some years ago, maybe I should have stuck it out 40 hours a week. But it's just not. I would say day in, day out. Lightheartedly, I say this. Like, my motivation is I don't want a real job. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing where we're like really of. It's like once you pass that point of no return, like, you got to go. So once as you're stepping closer to the cliff, you can always stop, right? But once you get to the edge, you got to jump. So, once you jump, like, you got to keep it rolling.
That's right.
Well, you've seen Yellowstone, haven't you, Jeff? Or no? A
little bit. We have not really got into that 100% for whatever reason.
So, one of the things they say in there, Tate, I don't know if you saw this, which is Kevin Costner's grandson. he'd ask him why, he farms and stuff, and, because it's One Hell of a Life. And that's kind of why we changed our podcast name to the One Hell of a Life Outdoor Podcast, because it really is. And that's really the story I'm hearing from you too,
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, again, like maybe, well, here's one of my other things, and my mother does live with us, and she would say, I say this just to justify doing what I want to do, but I can't guarantee you next week I'll be here, or next month I'll be here. I want to be here,
Right?
But there's no guarantee, right? So, man, you better do what you want to do now versus if you keep saying one day I want to do this, and one day I want to do that. If you don't do it, one day never gets here. So you got to do what you want to do.
Amen to that. One thing why it's still on my mind that I wanted to ask you when we were talking about, Tristan asked about some unique hunts and things like that. We see a lot of interbreeding of puddle ducks on social media. I mean, you're like, oh, that's the pintail mallard hybrid and all that. Are there any of those, like you guys out there that are hunting these seaducks all the time that you're like, oh man, now that is a 1 in a million bird, or, something like that you've seen?
Well, it's necessarily not to my pay grade, but I've been told that even though they're all scoter, they are not in the same genus. For ducks to reproduce to hybridize, they would have to be in the same genus. And even though, again, they're scoter, that evidently and I have an old book, and I should really educate myself a little bit more on this, that chart up and look. But I am told that they're not in the same genus, and therefore they cannot hybridize. They can't breed.
Interesting. That's an interesting fact. I was just curious about that because I never have seen somebody say, "Hey, here's a greater scalp Scotter mix or something like that." I just haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, like maybe somebody is more educated than myself can clear this up, but that's what I've been told. So I believe the person that told me that. So that's kind of what I've stuck to.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And we can't let you get out of here without asking about the Dirty Duck Coffee and Molly's Place Sporting Goods collab with the Pitboss logo on it.
Yeah, how'd the birth of that happen?
Yeah.
Well, first off, Karen and I love coffee, so that's number one. And number two, 2 years ago was the first time that we did have. It was a mixed group, but Dirty Duck was aboard.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I do a lot of stuff with Molly's. They do a lot of radio ads, kind of in our tri-state, the 3-state area here on iHeartRadio, and I do all their radio spots. So it's kind of simple and easy. I record it here, and basically MP3 file, and you can text it, and the quality is super good. So I do that. I got a shirt on right now that has Molly's embroidery. I have a flannel shirt on with Molly's and Pitboss on it. I'm wearing. So
Nice.
Molly's it's a great family business. 2 brothers, Nick and Chick, great guys. We've just become very, very close and very, very good friends. And, just talking with Dirty Duck, they reached out and just said, "Hey man, like, would you like to do something, but like with this, that maybe we can make it, we're just kind of brainstorming, make it like a Molly's exclusive kind of thing." And, I think the biggest part of it, honestly, is the coffee that Karen and I got lots of samples. If you want to mix something, we want this. We want you to like this. You have to like this coffee, whatever you're going to choose. And our biggest struggle, Karen and I, was that we do like coffee, and we were worried that maybe it would be a little too strong for the public, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's not burnt. It's not bitter, but it's definitely coffee. And it seems to be, every time, different shows we go to at Molly's and or Easton, and give out samples, man. As soon as somebody drinks them, they're like, "Man, that's good," and it gets bought up. So
yeah,
that's kind of the Dirty Duck. It's Molly's exclusive. Pitboss's Duck Boat Dark. From Dirty Duck Coffee.
Yeah, no, I think it's great coffee, and we've always been a coffee family. My parents owned a coffee franchise in Illinois years ago, but I bounce around because we're partners with Dirty Duck, so like we've tried just about everything they have, except I think Suns Up Guns Up, or it might be the only one I haven't tried, but Actually, when that came out, it's still my favorite coffee that they've came out with. And I like, several different types of their coffee, but just as like a day-to-day coffee, it's my favorite, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
thank you.
you know what I relate it to, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but I think any man or woman that at least Navy related, they know that, dude, guaranteed 90% of that population still today. I don't care if they served 20 years ago. They go to get coffee and they're like, cream sugar? Nope. Nope. No, because why? Because we didn't have it. Okay. We didn't have it. You were lucky to get coffee, and it was strong. It was strong coffee.
Yep.
And sometimes, like I remember we were in the Seaduck Sea, you're working I worked 76 hours without sleep. We were launching and recovering aircraft, 20-foot seas, performing the Bosnian crisis back in the 90s. And the only thing that you had as a stimulant to keep you going that was legal was coffee. And you wanted the strongest doggone coffee that you could have. And that's one thing that I immediately noticed whenever I tasted yours, is it just had that bite. It had a good bite, and I was like,
like I said, I don't think it's burnt or bitter, but yeah, it does.
It's what I would call the military bite.
One of the, I'll bring up this one of the roasts that we tried that I was very surprised that I like it, and I don't I have not had it in a while, but I was surprised favorably by the cinnamon teal. I just didn't think that was going to be a coffee that I liked, and I'm like, my goodness, like that was as for a flavored coffee, I thought that had a good flavor to it.
Yeah, no, that one is good. That's my wife's favorite, actually, and we both really like the Missouri Boat Ride, which is like another kind of flavored one they have. That's like a coconut praline or whatever. But yeah, no, both of those are awesome, and I think Morning Wood. I mean, that one's just a classic. Just having the wood duck on there, and that's just a classic one. But I guess I thing we ought to touch on too before we get you out of here, Jeff, is talk about a little bit about your booking hunts with you. I'd imagine at this point it's probably getting late in the year, but for next year, what does your pricing look like? If you don't mind mentioning that, and where people can get in touch with you and all that.
Yeah, for sure. So for next year, I believe I'm 18 of the 60 days booked. But basically I do a flat fee, a flat rate for up to 4 people. So 1, 2, not to gouge anybody, but 4 works out the best, but 1, 2, 3, or 4 is the same cost. It's $1,700 for the morning. Okay. And I can do an additional 5th or a 6th, for $425 each. A 3-day license in Maryland is $80. They raised it a couple dollars, but a 3-day license in Maryland is $80. We may, hopefully, fingers crossed, once we get everything done here, we may have lodging next year. But Ocean City is a ghost town, so there's lodging is not hard to find something somewhere. But yeah, the best way to contact me is my telephone number 410-937-4034. Text, call, and or message me any Facebook, Instagram, any of those places. I'm pretty active there. Keep up with it, and I don't think that I'm that hard to get a hold of. So,
well, and Jeff, I just want to let you know that you got a better chance of selling me on a scatter hunt than you do my son, because I'm getting older and I'm counting my days like we were talking about earlier, and I've got bucket list things, and I'm just like, dude, I got to do that. I have to do that. So I look forward to the day that I can experience your professional services and just go out there and have some fun.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jeff. We appreciate you taking the time out to come on tonight, and we're just thankful.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you on again, because I actually, because I told you I'm such an ecology nut, that I really want to drill down to this knowledge that you have.
I will, again, man. I don't know if it's how it's free, so that's what it's about worth, right? It's free. So.
Yes, sir.
But, I appreciate you guys thinking of me. Thank you very much. And all you got to do is ask, and I'll be happy to jump back on anytime you guys like.
All right.
All righty, Jeff. Well, thank you very much, and have a great night.
Same to you all. Thank you.
I've been southbound.
Bye-bye.
I've been hellbound, riding on the midnight train. Going too fast now, think I ought to slow down, standing in the pouring rain.